Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, to Onog and Thomas's side quest about Unearthed Arcana. What is it? Where does it come from? And where has it been for the past, year or something?
Something like that. Side quest, side
Oh, that's right. We do
quest,
this every time.
side quest. That's the theme for this episode.
But yeah, so apparently within the past couple of months, we've gotten 4 new subclasses. Whereas before, the most recent thing I think was like the re-release of the Artificer.
And they
Back
workshopped it for kind of a
And
while,
they
and then
had,
they
yeah, they
yeah.
had been doing that for a while. But then before that, I think it's been almost like exactly a year since any other Unearthed Arcana. And
They,
so,
they did take a break from it for a while. I'm not sure exactly how long it has been, but there was a big chunk of time where we didn't have any new blood flowing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, let me take a look here because it looks like, yeah, the monk, the most recent one we just got. Hold on, I had it here and then it vanished. So yeah, the most recent ones we got were the new Sorcerer and Warlock subclasses. Then before that, Barbarian and Monk. And then before that, when May, was Artificer Returns. And then before that was in December of 2018 for Sidekicks. So yeah,
Yikes.
it had been a while.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think the last one I even cared about was Races of Eberron, and that was almost exactly a year ago.
I'm glad that we're starting to pick it back up because I've
Yeah,
missed it.
yeah, I was gonna say it's like we were coming out with some cool creative stuff, and then it just sort of stopped happening.
One of the things that inspired this the most was I read the Barbarian and Monk, which was the first one that came out, and then just the other day we had the Sorcerer and Warlock subclasses come out. And while reading it, I was just blown away by where did this come from? Who was
Yeah,
asking for this? Who had this idea and who approved it? And
a lot.
how
Yeah,
did it get approved?
these are some interesting flavor twists.
When we get to talking about the sorcerer, I'm sure we'll touch on they added a sorcerer spell list, extended
Yes,
spell
and
list.
I have words.
We'll address it. Which one do we want to start with, though?
Well, let's go chronological. Let's hit. Was it Barbarian and Monk first?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Let's go through that. So, released in July, I believe, of this
It,
year. Or no, it was
it
that
is
was actually
August.
August. Yeah, the
Yeah, it
beginning
was
of
August.
August.
Yep.
So yeah, or the middle of August. Yeah, was Barbarian and Monk subclasses, and it's the file for it is titled. Oh gosh, what was it called? Wild Astral. So
Yeah.
we get the Path of the Wild Soul for Barbarian Primal Path, and then we get the monastic tradition of the Way of the Astral Self. So, being a little biased as I am, let's talk about Barbarians first.
Let's dig into these big barb boys.
Yeah, so this is a wild magic barbarian,
Have you
which
ever punched something so hard magic came out of you?
have you ever gotten so angry that necrotic energy burst from you and each creature within 30 feet of you took 1d10 necrotic damage and you gained temporary hit points equal to the sum of the necrotic damage dealt to those creatures?
It's bonkers, my dude.
It is very interesting. So the basic mechanic of this is the wild surge table that you get at third level when you choose the path, that basically whenever you
You
rage,
get that wild surge.
something happens on the wild surge table, and they are all pretty beneficial.
Yeah.
Some of them are more situational than others, where it's like, oh well, what if, like the one I just read off, it's like, what if only your friends are in 30 feet of you and you rage to go run into battle and then you just drain the life of all your allies.
Just drain for a D10
It's
all
like,
your friends. Like,
thanks guys.
hey,
Thanks for the top off. All right.
yeah. I will say when I read through this, I was expecting there like this is already. Don't get me wrong, this is weird, like good weird. But I was expecting weirder. I was expecting like it's like all mechanically useful, which
Yeah.
the real wild sorcerer
Is
wild
not.
search table is not. There's many non-useful, and I get that they want it to like. I do understand that probably they're pitching it not for the same crowd, but ah
And
man,
we
I'd
also
love it
have to
if
take into account this is playtest content, so they could make it instead of like a D8, make it a D12, and 4 of them are just useless. You know?
Or just like, yeah, I mean, I get not wanting to be actively like negative to you. I understand that. But if not
Mhm.
useless, just odd, you know?
More
Because there's,
silly. Yeah.
yeah, there's like all kinds of ones. I mean, turning blue and losing all your hair and stuff in the wild magic sorcerer
Hmm.
table. And I wish there was something like that here where you rage and your beard just falls out.
But yeah, so it's like each of these is pretty cool in their own right, but yeah, it's like if you got the same one every time, would it still be useful? Would it be
Hmm.
powerful? Would it be too powerful? And
Which
that's
one do you think, as our kind of like final note on it, which one do you think is the best one?
is the best
If you
one.
had to pick one, just like which one do you think is the
Well, I
most
mean,
powerful one?
to bring it up again, the teleport 20 feet one.
Oh yeah, it's
My
really good.
my problem anytime I am a barbarian is I have killed my foe and now everyone else is 60 feet away and I have to spend my whole turn getting to them and then they just keep running away. Like that happens to be more times than I can count. Where it's just like if only I were 20 feet farther, I'd be able to hit this guy, and that answers the problem of being a barbarian, in my opinion. But like a lot of these, I think the plant life temporarily grows around you is easily the worst when you
Yeah,
look at
I
it.
agree. I do, like just difficult terrain around you
It's
is
like,
like, yeah,
oh, wait.
okay,
And it's not just that, it's difficult terrain for 10 feet around you. So
yeah,
it will only slow someone if they were already at the end of their movement, anyways.
yeah. And the problem of D&D combat in general isn't very mobile. You just sort of stand and punch a lot of the
Mhm.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, and that just doesn't really work out as being that useful unless you have a lot of people trying to run away from you, which unless your DM is playing like intelligent character creation kind of a thing where it's like, "Oh, the hobgoblins are losing, they flee." That will slow them down for a bit and then you'll be definitely able to catch up to them. But I don't think I've played a game where a character has run away from my barbarian.
yeah. I think I don't know if this is the most powerful one, but my like favorite one as far as I can see how that's so beneficial is number 7. Your weapon becomes a psychic damage weapon and it gains
Mm.
the light and throne properties.
That is super neat. That is
It's
super
really
neat.
cool.
You could attack the guy in front of you and then huck your great axe at the guy 20 feet away, and then you'd have your weapon ready for the next turn. That's how one of my characters, Faywin, plays a lot. She carries a spear and she's a monk, and so what she does is she just murders whoever's in front of her, and then her last attack is just throw a spear at the next guy and pull it out of him on her next
Yeah.
turn.
Speaking of monks,
Yeah. So
let's talk. This is my favorite one. We
this
have to
is
talk about this.
this is so weird.
It's so weird. I
This
love it.
like sure the barbarian was like quirky and fun, but this is just like you are punching them but not with your real arms. It's all weird and your inner self.
It's your inner true self that you're summoning. It is the so this is yeah, way of the astral self. Essentially, the flavor of it is you like summon your astral form, which reflects your inner warrior or whatever, and it takes whatever shape you choose. Basically, like you pick a shape for it to take, and then
Or
it's
quote
that's
unquote
the shape.
whatever is based around your characters.
Yeah.
Which is
So
what you get to choose. So.
yeah, you could probably work it out with your DM where maybe they have it like they could have some control over it in some regards where it's like you're becoming more and more violent and the DM starts describing your astral self as more and more evil looking
Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh
It's
no, what am I
covered in
becoming?"
spikes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it loves rock and roll now.
Oh
But
no.
the just the idea of like summoning a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure like fighting stand and being like whoa, it kills me, man.
Now,
That's amazing.
I'm not very familiar with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but from what I understand, don't they summon like their spiritual stand? Doesn't it like appear like next to them and it fights alongside them? Or
They sort of like fight through it. Like
oh,
it's
so
like
is it?
as they're fighting, it's fighting
Oh,
kind of a
okay.
thing. So it's essentially the same, but not necessarily. It doesn't like hover over them as armor like this does, but very similar vibes.
This is at a certain point. It just looks like you look like you're a foot taller than you normally are because of your glowing.
Oh, so this is just
helmet.
The seeming spell.
Yeah, this is just seeming, except you get to be weird and extra about it.
Oh, I love how extra you can be with this, though. There are so many. The reason I needed to talk about this is because we have to do a lightning round of just what would the weirdest or best astral self be?
Oh, jeez.
I've had some ideas already. One, you're a warforged monk, and your astral self is like your mech armor that you're like. It's like a Gundam.
Cool. I like it.
Two, it's like a magical girl anime. It's like Sailor Moon, and your character like spins around, and their like astral self is like a magical girl.
And
depending whatever
outfit.
you are normally, it doesn't. You could be like an overweight middle-aged man, but your astral self is a magical girl. Anything goes. I love it. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
I'm already imagining where it's like, yes, you summon the arms of the astral self, and they're these big beefy arms with fists. And then you summon the visage of the astral self, and out of your face come more beefy arms with fists.
My astral form is a ball of arms.
It's just 18 arms.
One of the like descriptions in here says it's giving you examples. It could be a humanoid knight with a helmeted face and muscular arms, or it could be a golden metallic form with thin arms, like a Modron. Oh wait, like a Modron. Why not just have my astral self be a Modron?
So you just get these tiny little stick arms. Like levitating above your actual arms, but for some reason they have reach of 10 feet.
And then when you do your astral visage, it's just the like single-eyed Modron face from the monster manual. That makes sense why you would have advantage on intimidation checks, because that would freak me the F out.
I'd just be like, guys, hey, I don't know what happened, but he's got one eye now.
Your astral self, one of my favorite ideas I had was your astral self is just you, but with a mustache.
Yeah.
It's just your own face again, but this
good.
one has a mustache. That's your truest inner
But
self.
it's like uncomfortably, weirdly, like slightly bigger than your face because it has to appear above it.
Sort of a bobblehead situation.
Yeah.
We were talking about you could totally run a monk where it's like the more in tune with yourself and more honest with yourself you are, the more it looks like you.
Yeah. Ooh,
where it's cool. Like, I don't need to be anything else because I am so at one with the universe that it just looks like me. It's like, it doesn't change me in any way. But I also do love the exact opposite of that, where like the more at peace with yourself you are, the more it becomes just like a
whatever
furry.
You want. Yeah. The more it's just a furry.
It's just like a sexy wolf boy who's like, ooh, woo. And you're like, I can't explain, guys.
Thomas, if you wanted to play a furry, you could have just picked Tabaxi like normal people.
Can you picture a Tabaxi whose astral self is a halfling? Like, this is the most ridiculous. I love this so much. I can't even express to you. Just the concept. The mechanics, sure, whatever. It's fine.
Like, we haven't even gotten to the mechanics.
Yeah, we don't even need to, like, talk about them. They're sort of cool. Like,
you get to punch better and more.
Yeah, you get punch better and more. You get some, like, role play stuff.
I do want to talk about, though, the astral sight ability you get at 6th level is the only other instance outside of Warlock of being able to see in magical darkness.
Yeah, for sure. Which is pretty spicy.
Just the idea behind it in and of itself, like the pure flavor of this class or subclass is the entire reason to go for it. Like you don't even look at the numbers and go, well, but if I were just a way of the hand monk,
yeah,
I would just be more efficient.
One of my other favorite images is the further away you go from the human form, the funnier it gets to me. Where it's like your arms are horse legs. And then the visage of the astral self is just a horse's head. So it's like taller than your own head, because of the neck.
You're just like slowly becoming a horse, but like you don't
standing on its hind. No, but like your image will, because it has to mimic your movements.
Yeah.
So you're like a boxing horse.
It's like, why is this the thing? Why is this what you have done to me?
It's so funny. I would love an astral self that's just someone else in the party.
It's just like, my ideal self is Bean the Rock Gnome Rogue.
So you, but to cover you, Bean would have
But
to
it's
be
a
your
giant
size.
bean.
Oh no!
Bean's entire head encapsulates
Oh, it's so good.
my head and shoulders because it
That's
has
so
to be proportional.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, let's jump to the newest one, which just came out recently. So I've had less time to think about it, but I've been thinking about it.
Oh,
And I think these are equally interesting.
yeah.
These ones are not nearly as just buck wild, but these are still very good.
So the sorcerer is of the apparent mind. They are all about a very specific kind of aesthetic with this one. As I was reading over it, where it's just like an alien influence has wrapped its tendrils around you, warping your body and mind. Perhaps a psychic splinter lodged in your psyche after you suffered domination by an aboleth.
Oh, an aboleth, like a big lurker in the deep
Like
with
a
a bunch
lurker
of
in the deep. Yeah,
tentacles.
shut up. No, those are different things. And they're
Very
definitely not the same thing at all. Maybe you were born somewhere tainted by the far realm.
Oh, far realm? You mean like the Great Old One?
Shush, shush. This is Sorcerer's Origin. This is different.
Very different, very different.
A planar blot that changed you forever. Or perhaps mind flayers kidnapped you and subjected you to the nightmarish process of ceramorphosis, which is how they breed.
Yeah, but that's the coolest, like...
But the transformation failed. Yeah, that's like one of the most horrifying but also interesting things to play with. Now, where I start getting a little weirded out by whoever wrote this is in the sub-box Unique Disturbance.
Yeah.
Where it's like, regardless of genesis, the apparent mind of origin impacts the sense of eeriness in the character and their surroundings. This can be as subtle as when your sorcerer reads a creature's mind with detect thoughts. Anyone in their immediate vicinity experiences a faint but pervasive sense of dread. Or it could be unmistakable, such as sweating a sheen of viscous mucus when you're scared. Now, remember that last one, because that's going to come up a lot.
Yeah, the word viscous.
Viscous mucus. And it's just like, so they could be creepy, or they're just wet all the time.
They're just gooey. We've got to address this spell list. If that's not what you were going to talk about.
Oh, no, that is exactly what I've been waiting to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about it.
As someone who has made several sorcerer characters in the past, Wizards always does this. They always taunt us in the Unearthed Arcana with, hey, we know it's hard being a sorcerer, and you're not nearly as, expansive of a spell list as the wizards, and you don't get as many spells as the wizards can prepare, and things like that. Well, here, in these special subclasses, we're going to give you extra spells. They did it in Unearthed Arcana that released the Storm Sorcerer. I think they did it in the Unearthed Arcana that released, the Holy Soul Sorcerer or whatever it's called.
Yeah. The Radiant Soul.
Yeah, the Radiant Soul, where it's like, hey, you get these extra spells from these other spell lists that normal sorcerers can't have, but also they could be normal sorcerer spells, but you just have them prepared for, or you've learned them for free and they don't take up your precious slots that you need in order to learn spells. And then they always put them in Unearthed Arcana, and then whenever it's officially released, that's the first thing that gets cut. It's kind of infuriating.
There are real teas about
There are real teas. However, this one is a little different because of the 6th level ability. Yeah, we get Arms of Hadar, Dissonant Whispers. These are all lovely warlock spells that they get. Ancient Old One warlock spells.
Yeah.
However, the 6th level ability is very interesting because beginning at 6th level, when you cast any of the spells gained by your psionic spell feature, which is the feature that gives them expanded spell list, you can cast it by expending a spell slot as normal or by spending a number of sorcery points equal to the spell's level. If you cast the spell using sorcerer points, it requires no components.
Oh.
So you can literally just, without moving, without touching anything, without blinking, you can just cast Avard's Black Tentacles using 7 sorcery points.
That's pretty spicy.
That's just a raw conversion of spell slots, because, normally sorcerers, with their sorcery points and converting them to spell slots, there's a disadvantage at that point. But if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to cast Avard's Black Tentacles and I need to save as many 7th level spell slots as I can, let me just use my sorcery points. Boom, there we go. And also, I can use it stealthily because it requires no material, no verbal, no somatic components.
Yeah.
And that's pretty bonkers.
It is weird to me, too, that this is... I mean, they've dabbled in it before, but this is their first sort of, like, recent attempt of a psionic caster.
Yeah, and that's
and
another thing.
It's weird to me
that
they've gone so hard into this "you're covered in mucus" angle.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Is we get the warped being ability. It's just like you're covered in slime. It's like, why is this the thing that you keep pushing? Or your skin's just tough, but you're covered in slime.
Yeah. Or the revelation in flesh, like you gain a fly speed, you're covered in mucus.
It's like why?
Everything.
Why are you doing this to me?
Uh-huh.
They're just trying to make some moist eldritch boys.
Let's wrap it up here with our warlock. That's definitely not just the Great Old One patron.
Well, and this one, while interesting flavor wise, it's kind of just the same thing.
Not to end on a downer, but this is, I feel, sort of the weakest one.
Yeah, where it's just like, at level 1, you can summon a tentacle. Cool. At level 2, you can summon more tentacles. It's okay. At level 5, you can summon a pokey mouth. It's like you're very specific in the things you can summon.
But at 6th level, you can make a tentacle, but now it can do one new thing.
Yeah. At 6th level, you can make that water tentacle or normal tentacle, but now it can protect your friends sometimes and then immediately dies.
Yeah, this one feels the most like, where's the creativity of the Astral Self monk in this class?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where's that?
Like all of those juices went to the wild barbarian and the astral monk, and then they were just like, I don't know, make it wet.
Yeah, splash some water on him. I think that here's my like immediate feedback for the Lurker and the Deep patron. Just like go hard on a choice instead of being like, I don't know, your patron's like something. Let's just say it's the Lurker in the Deep is an ancient primordial crab.
It is a guy.
Like, it is like the one guy. I mean, that's pretty much how it is with like Hexblade, more or less, where it's like, this is basically just the Raven Queen, but like whatever. Like, you can always reflavor it for your world and stuff, but like if we just picked a bit of a harder visual and theme, Crab Warlock would be amazing. If it was a Crab Warlock completely focused around like claws and like walking sideways. Crab Warlock. Yeah. He's a black blue. If it was like you get a big claw boys, you can attack with them, but they're also like maybe they deal some kind of like they deal necrotic damage or something. They're magical, whatever. You can like, I don't know. There'd be a cool thing of like you can walk sideways. We could make a weird walking sideways ability. That'd be cool, right? Like you could just make it a lot weirder than it is now. Where now it's sort of just like, I don't know, you get like a tentacle, but the tentacle can be like a tentacle or like a different kind of tentacle maybe if you want, or like a water tentacle. But like pretty much this is just, I had the idea, what if I had one tentacle? And that's not that interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's like, and while mechanically it's kind of neat and like there's stuff to be done, and it's nice that, because a lot of the problems with warlocks in general is that when they run out of spell slots, what do? They Eldritch Blast.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing they do. But with this, you have other options. You have more resources than simply just like a one-off ability. And so it's interesting in that regard. But at the same time, it's just, but now the only thing you do is tentacle.
Let's wrap this one up. You want to bring us home?
I don't remember any of the things I'm supposed to say. If you liked the things we talked about, give us a like. If you didn't, well, that's too bad. But leave us a comment, and if you did like it, leave us a comment and see what tell us what you thought. What are some changes, or what are some things that we just are missed in our ignorance? Yeah, things like that.
Or what's the best astral self?
Yeah, what is the true
that you can come up with?
Leave a comment leaving the best astral self. Thomas, you got the other interactions? I don't remember them off the top of my head.
You're good. Yeah, no, we make D&D content every week starting, now. And we're going to be bringing out content pretty consistently here. We just posted a full episode yesterday. If you want an hour-long podcast where we just ramble and also there's a little bit of D&D talk in there, check it out. It's really good. Called The Copperfoxinn. You can find it here on the same YouTube channel that made this video, so it should be pretty easy to find. And if you want to send us a homebrew for us to talk about on that podcast, you can send it to us at our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com, or on Twitter at thecopperfoxinn. And we'll close the episode out with a word from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is when you roll a 1 and everybody just has that crestfallen look in their eyes, and then you look up dramatically as you take a swig of your drink. You spit it out on the table and you just go, "You guys forget one thing. I'm a halfling, y'all." And then you roll that boy again.
Nice.
That's our sponsor this week.
That's a very good sponsor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, use our code CopperFox to roll that boy again.
Only if you're a halfling, though. It's a very
only if you're
very
a halfling,
specific,
so.
very specific sponsor.
You have to provide a proof of ID. So yeah. That's another side quest down the hatch. I don't know. I guess they drank.
And nobody even died.
Nobody even died. We'll see you guys next time. Keep on adventuring.